What's up, everybody? It's me, Johnny G, and welcome back to the channel. We're in the kitchen today. And why is that, you ask? Well, it's going to be Arknights related. But how? You're in the kitchen. What could you be doing Arknights related? Let's see. Let me give you a preface as to why we're here. Back at Lappland's birthday, I was sitting at work and I was bored and I wanted to do something and I hadn't drawn anything in a while. Now, my artwork is horrible and I do apologize for that. I usually need to sit down and take a lot of time to actually draw something that I'm happy with, that I'm comfortable with and comfortable with sharing, typically. But I was at work, I was bored, it was a long day, nothing really going on. So I spent about the better part of an hour doing this quick little doodle of a chibi Lappland with a party hat and cake. And a good friend of the channel commented on that shortly after, and they wrote, "She looks like she'd make a tasty gingerbread lappy." And that got me thinking, since we were close to the holiday baking season, my response was, don't give me ideas because I could totally do that. So what are we doing? We're gonna make gingerbread Lupos and Dr. Now, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna mix up and bake some fresh gingerbread using a recipe that my mom gave me. And then we're gonna roll it out, cut it out with cookie cutters, and then bake it. And afterwards, we're gonna make an icing and make gingerbread Lappland, gingerbread Texas, and gingerbread Dr. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, there's a little bit to this though. A little bit of extra work that was needed for this. So, what we did, let's explain here. I needed something in order to make the shapes that I needed for the characters that I was going to use. And typically with a gingerbread, when you're making gingerbread men, right? You're gingerbread men, gingerbread women, you've got to have a cookie cutter of some sort. So I did something. For the first time, I experimented with learning 3D modeling and I created my own cookie cutters. So I took a generic gingerbread outline that I found online and I modified it. Using Clip Studio Paint, I sat down and I edited the gingerbread outline. I converted it to a vector layer, edited it, changed the hairstyle, added a tail, added ears, stuff like that to create 2 certain cookie cutters. And then I created another one just by editing the outlines a little bit to create Dr. But I'll show you those cookie cutters here. Let's give you a closer look to those. Now, first and foremost, here is Dr. As you can see, I added the outline to make it more like the hood, and we've got pieces of his clothing. His jacket and his little underneath smock are hanging out a little bit more. And then we have Texas. Tried not to go too crazy on her hair. And then of course you have the little tail sticking out. And then last but not least, we have Lappland. This one will be Lappland. Now, the only problem I have with this cookie cutter is the way it came out. The little nook of hair that I put on the top didn't quite come out exactly how I wanted to after printing. I think that my design ultimately would be a little bit better, larger, for that to have cut properly. I basically just have her little extra snippets of hair that are coming off of the top that you could see on the backside where it would cut. It's gonna come out decently, but the one little tiny piece, if I would have printed it a little larger, it probably would have come out better. But I digress. It's still really, really good. Now, these were printed with PLA, but the one thing I would recommend, and I'm pretty much only using these particular ones, these demo models, we'll say, for the purpose of this video, but I've cleaned them. They are ready to be used. One thing with the PLA and with 3D printing stuff like this that I did learn is the fact that it is a very porous material, the plastic. So unless you really take the time to make sure that it's clean, there are chances that you're gonna leave residue and stuff inside the lines, inside the pores and whatnot of the material. So you have to be extra careful with it. And they recommend actually dipping it in a food grade resin that will smooth that out, prevent that from happening, and protect your design in the future with use. But again, these particular ones I'm only going to use for the purpose of this video, and then afterwards we'll be done with them. I'll probably clean them up and stick them aside as a little bit of a memento of the first thing that I actually designed. And again, I used the basic gingerbread outline in Clip Studio Paint, modified it, took it into Tinkercad and converted it using a little video that I watched, and learned how to turn that drawing into a cookie cutter model that I then printed out. So it was a lot of fun, but this is something that I think we could potentially do some more of in the future. Some other characters and stuff, and make sugar cookies or gingerbread cookies or whatever out of them in the future. But for now, let's talk about the recipe. So the gingerbread recipe that I'm going to be using today is one that my mom gave me. So she's used this in the past. I remember eating it. It's a pretty dang good gingerbread. It's basic, very simple recipe. Doesn't take a whole lot to do. And then I looked up my own sugar cookie icing recipe that we'll use as well. And I'll read off those ingredients here in a moment. Now, for the gingerbread itself, we're going to use 2 1/4 cups of flour, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of shortening, 1/2 cup of light molasses, which I couldn't find anything specifically saying light molasses. And when I asked my mom, this particular brand is what she buys at the grocery store, this grandma's molasses. She said it works just fine. So that's what we're going to be using. It doesn't say light or anything. It just says original. So we'll go with that. We're going to use an egg. We need 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of double acting baking powder, a teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of cloves, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to mix all those ingredients, mix it well, and then we have to refrigerate it for a short amount of time, about an hour or more. It's kind of up to you how long you want to refrigerate the dough for, but we'll go about an hour or so, and then we'll be able to roll it out. We're going to cut it, preheat the oven, and get them baked. And then once they cool, we're going to mix up the icing. And then my wife will be helping me to color the icing, to mix in colors, to get the different colors that we want. We'll make a list of colors while the stuff's refrigerating. And then we'll be able to make our icing, decorate our characters, and then have some gingerbread Lupos and a doctor to show you guys. So now for the icing itself, this is going to use 2 1/2 cups of powdered sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 1/2 tablespoons of light corn syrup, 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk, and then the food coloring. So for the icing, basically we're just going to beat the powdered sugar, vanilla, corn syrup, and a tablespoon of milk in a small bowl until smooth, which we'll mix it in the mixer again, make it simple and easy. And then you add a little milk at a time just to reach that desired consistency. So that's why it says 2 to 3 tablespoons. You start with 1, but then you add a little bit more here and there if you want to, just to get that consistency that you want. You don't want it too runny, because if it's too runny, it's not going to stay. It's not going to create the shape, the color, the form that you want on top of the cookie. It's just going to smear off the cookie and be done. It's going to be very hard to decorate with. So we don't want that. And then of course we stir in the food coloring to reach the desired color and then decorate the cookies. Very simple, very easy recipe. We're going to get that done. Let's start with measuring our ingredients, mixing up the gingerbread, and getting it refrigerated after. Are you ready, Pookie? All right. All right, so I have my mixer plugged in, ready to go, ready to use here. Everything's clean, and we're ready to rock and roll. So let's start with the flour. Let me make sure I have the correct one, and we'll need 2 1/4 cups. Now for anybody that wants, I will post the recipe down in the comments, and I will link to the sugar cookie icing recipe that I found online here that we're going to use for this. Now, sometimes with icing and stuff, I do take liberties. We'll see how this comes out, but I may modify things, and if I do, I'll put those notes in the comments as well. But we've got our flour here, so 2 1/4 cups to start with. Now, I've got a metal measuring cup here, which is nice because it's got additional measurements on the side. So it's 1 cup, but it's got all these markings for the additional. So we'll be able to measure our 2 1/4 all right here. We'll see how good I do today. I'm sometimes a messy baker. I don't always get things correct. or rather clean, I should say. I don't know why I said correct. I'm weird. All right, so we've got 2 in. Now we've got to hit a quarter. Where is my quarter? Right here. It's got the lines on the inside from the indentation, which makes it very easy to measure out. Perfect. There is our 2 1/4 cups. So we can put that away. And I tend to like to clean up a little bit as I go. So we'll stack our ingredients off to the side that we don't need anymore. Okay. Next up, we need our sugar. So we use a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And I like to try to even out and level them, which I'm just using my finger now for that purpose. However, sometimes I like to use like a butter knife or something, just the flat edge, and scrape off the top there. All right. Next up is our 1/2 cup of shortening. Now this one, I need to go grab a spoon for. Okay, so I've got my 1/2 cup here. We're gonna use a spoon for this just because it's easier to scoop it out and then kind of smear it in and get our measurement. At least that's the way I've always done it. Probably could just dip the whole cup in, but then the outside gets all messy and whatnot, so I just like to do it this way. Then it makes it easier for me to kind of smush it down, pack it in, make sure that I get the right measurement. Kind of level it out a little bit. And there we go. There's our 1/2 cup of shortening. Then what I can do is just kind of scoop it in. Scoop it into there. Scrape off our beater so it's not all hanging on there yet. Whee! Off of there. Now, I typically have regular shortening, but this last time I made a pickup order from Walmart and they didn't have the regular, so they gave me butter flavored as a replacement. Now, there is no butter in this recipe, so I don't really mind the butter flavoring. If anything, it's probably not gonna alter the flavor too much, but this just says 1/2 cup of shortening. And again, my mom gave me this recipe, so I asked her to be sure. I said, hey, I've only got butter flavored shortening. Is that gonna make a difference? She said it really shouldn't. So Mom knows best. I trust Mom, so come on. All right, next we need our 1/2 cup of molasses. So I'm gonna go grab a measuring cup for that. Okay, we've got a glass measuring cup here. Go ahead and open up this jar and let's see. Oh, it pours pretty easily. Ooh-wee. I've never really worked much with molasses, but I tell you what, I do love a good molasses cookie. And then of course, again, gingerbread. I love gingerbread. So I do like stuff with molasses. I need something to wipe off that jar. So we'll set that aside for now. I'll have to wipe off the rim of it. Or you know what? We'll just use my thumb. And my hands are clean. So, and then we'll pour that in here. Ooh, what I could use is a rubber spatula in order to get that cleaned out on the inside. We'll use my spoon for now though. Tell you what else molasses is good for. I like using molasses to make a coating. There's a coating that my mom makes that uses molasses and some spices and stuff for chicken wings. It makes them like a sticky sweet heat. Oh my God, are they good? Amazing. Okay. All right. And there we go. We got the majority of that cleaned out there. Okay. put our dirty dishes off to the side there that we'll take over here in a moment. We need our egg. Just gonna crack that right in there. Set that aside. I don't know about you guys, but I like to wash the outside of my egg because they say that the salmonella comes from the shell. So I like to wash the outside of it before I use it, but then I still like to wash my hands after handling it and whatnot, but it's just a habit of mine. I probably shouldn't be wearing my ring while I do this. I usually don't, but I got a little hasty start here. All right, next up, we just need our powders and our seasonings. So we need our ground cinnamon first, which is 1.5 teaspoon. We'll go ahead and open up the top here so that way we can get down in. Level that a bit. 1. We'll get about half here. Half. Beautiful. We need a teaspoon of our baking powder. Use a paper towel to clean off my teaspoon so I can reuse it. There's our baking powder. Teaspoon of ground ginger. I love the smell of ginger. Okay. Good stuff. Felt like a little bit went up my nose there. Next up, we have a teaspoon of our ground cloves. Okay. And now the rest of this is in half teaspoons. So we have a half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Also love nutmeg. Very much love nutmeg. Half a teaspoon of our baking soda. Okay. And then last but not least, our half a teaspoon of salt. Now, I do have a salt grinder. I grind the salt, so this is going to be a little bit difficult, but what we will do, we're going to dump it out. We're going to put it on this paper towel here, just so that I can grind it up a little bit more. So there is our salt, and that is it. So now all we have to do is mix this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some things away first, and then we're gonna mix it up and get the area prepped so that we can get that onto some plastic wrap that we'll wrap it up in and put it away to refrigerate for that hour time. All right, so we have our area mostly cleaned up. Got my plastic wrap ready. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and start mixing this. Work it in low at first here, just because we don't want stuff to go everywhere. That's kind of cool because as it's mixing here, and I don't really have the best means to show you, but as it's mixing here, it starts off in like a crumbly way, and then as the ingredients start incorporating, it starts to get stickier. It starts to get stickier and stickier and crumble up a bit more. until it finally starts to come together as a dough. And now you can hear the mixer starting to bog down a little bit because it's now clumping. And with that, we have ourselves a gingerbread dough. And there, you can see a quick look of it inside the bowl. So now we'll go ahead and we'll take our beater out here, which is pretty much relatively clean. And then what we're gonna do is let's get a sliver of this plastic wrap out. Try to be careful because I got some dough on my one hand there. Use my clean hand to grab this. We're going to lay that down here. Tear this off. Okay. And now we'll take this dough. And it's really a really soft dough, but it's almost like Play-Doh consistency, if you will. So get that in there. And there we go. So now we'll wrap it up, get it in the refrigerator, and we will see you guys in an hour. All right, so we have got our dough refrigerated. It has been just a tad over an hour, and we're gonna get it out here. I've got some paper laid down here, just some wax paper, just for now. I don't have any plain parchment paper, which would be better, but this isn't really gonna hurt anything. And we're gonna put a little flour out, roll out this dough right here on the table, and then we'll get started on the cutting process, getting them on the tray, and then we'll be able to bake them, which only takes about 8 minutes. I have the oven preheated at 350 and 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And once we get it in there, it's about 8 minutes. We'll get our racks out and let them cool overnight. And then tomorrow, we'll go ahead and get them iced up. So let's go ahead and get this. Oh, it smells so good. In a way, almost kind of smells like pumpkin pie a little bit in some resolves, but I'll put a little bit of flour down, spread it out here. Like I said, I kind of wish I had just some plain parchment paper. To some extent, you don't really need to do too much of this, but it should, the wax paper should be good enough, but having the flour down will help to keep it from sticking. I'm gonna move my mixer here just a little bit out of the way. Ooh, the paper just wants to slip. I need something good to weigh it down. Now that we've got the actual dough starting to roll, we should actually be okay. Now, my mom's instructions said to roll it out to be about 1/8 of an inch. So, 1/8 of an inch thick, you figure isn't super thick, but that's all right. They'll probably puff up as they bake. All right, let's go ahead and start cutting. All right, so let's go ahead. We've got it nice and smooth here. Let's go ahead and do a test cut. We're gonna go ahead and use Lappland first. Let's go ahead and just put this here, and we're gonna press her right down into there. And we'll peel some of this excess away. We'll set this aside because we'll dough it up here again. Okay, we got my jumbo spatula here. So let's go ahead and use that. to try and lift her out of here. And that is awesome. So we'll go ahead and move the tray over just so that I can put her down on the tray and pull the cookie cutter off. Wonderful. We'll try to get 3 of each if we can. So let's do another Lappland here. All right, that's 2 for her. Let's get a 3rd one. Peel away this excess. Three. All right, that's 3 for Lappland. Let's go ahead and get Texas in here. Okay. And then scoop. Biggest thing you have to be careful of is the tails and the ears to make sure that they don't fall apart and stuff when you're, oh, like the little edges of the hair too for these. Okay, 2. Let go there, Texas. Come on. There we go. Beautiful. And 1 more of her. Okay, peel this away. Three. All right. And then let's get 1 doctor out of this, and then we'll have to re-roll. There, ducky. Oh no, he fell right out of the cookie cutter, which on one hand is a good thing, but gotta be very careful. There we go. All right, let's get this re-rolled then. Okay, now we should be able to get 2 more doctors out of this. And then the extra dough I'll probably just go on and toss in and just make some little extra gingerbread pieces. Bits and pieces that can be eaten by the kids afterwards. Two, and whoa, we got a little extra piece stuck to that, doctor. Let's move that. And then last one. There we go. All right, so we have 3 Lapplands, 1, 2, 3 Texas, and 3 doctors, all shaped out there. Now they're gonna go in the oven at 350 for about 8 minutes, and then we'll pull them out, put them on some drying racks, or cooling racks rather, and then they'll be ready to decorate and ice tomorrow. And now they are all done. So they just came out of the oven, and you're gonna wanna let them cool for a couple of minutes on the tray first because the tray is gonna be hot. But they obviously puffed up a little bit and they're still a little soft right now, but as they cool, they're gonna harden a little bit more and get to a more sturdier toughness, I guess, if you want to put it that way. I don't know the exact terminology I'm looking for, but they're going to become sturdier. And then, like I said, we're going to move them off onto these cookie racks, these drying racks, cooling racks, whatever you want to call them. And they're going to sit here and air cool overnight. I'm going to leave them out so that they dry and harden. And once everything's all said and done, when I come back from work tomorrow, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to make the icing. So I'm going to leave my mixer here and ready for us to continue tomorrow. We'll get the icing made up, and then from there, we'll sit and we'll pick the best three, the ones that are in the best condition, one of each. So a Lappland, a Texas, and a Doctor. And then we'll go ahead and get them all iced up, decorated, and we'll see how they look. The trouble is, I'm not going to want to devour them. How can I eat my Pookie? She doesn't want me to eat her, right, Pookie? No? See? She says no. No way, no eating me. Okay? All right, we won't eat you, maybe. Anyways, well, they look good. Yeah? Well, let's get them cooled and get them ready to ice. All right, we are back. It has been 24 hours. Our cookies are cooled and finished and ready to ice. So we're about to mix the icing. Right, Pookie? Yeah? All right. So we're gonna mix up this icing, and again, it is a really, really simple recipe. So I've got the paper right here with me. We need powdered sugar, vanilla extract, light corn syrup, and milk. And then the wifey, behave, is going to mix up the colors for us, so to speak. Because that's one thing, I know I've talked about it in the channel before, but I struggle with colors. I am technically colorblind, not to a severe point where I can't see color and things like that. I just get a lot of colors mixed up really badly. And I struggle to match colors and things the way that they should be. So my wife's really good with that. Behave. And she'll handle that for us. So, Pookie doesn't like wifey, apparently. Anyways, yeah, so she's gonna go ahead and mix the colors. We're gonna make a big batch and we're gonna keep this, plain white as it is in here. And essentially from there, we'll have multiple bowls with different colors that we need for each character. And then, that's that. We can ice them and be all done with this project and show off the results. So let's go ahead and mix this icing up first. First thing we need to do is to beat everything minus 2 tablespoons of milk in this bowl until smooth. Now, it says you could do it in a small bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and do it in the mixer. It makes it a little bit easier for me. I've got my mixer plugged in again, ready to go. So we've got our milk, corn syrup, vanilla extract, and our powdered sugar. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna double the recipe here. Now I'll put the notes for the single recipe, or the link to this recipe in particular, in the description, and you guys can do with it as you will. I'm gonna double it just because there's times where, whether it's when we're working with the colors or just in general, that I tend to run out of icing easily. So for the sake of the fact, I will go ahead and double it up just to make sure we have enough. And whatever's left over, I'll stick it in the fridge. The kids can have it with cookies. Plus, we also have the little bit of leftover gingerbread that I baked afterwards and just made some, how do you put it? I just made some like little gingerbread crust pieces, so to speak. They're just little misshapes. And yeah, I baked them up you can kind of dip them in the icing. That would be cool. All right, so there's 2. Now this, since we're doubling it, instead of 2.5, we're going 5 cups. Here's 3. 3. Here comes 4. 4. And 5. I always end up, like when I'm baking like birthday cake or something for my family, for my kids, whatever, I tend to overdo it on the icing, because if I do a single batch of whatever it is I'm making, it doesn't always come out that great. So I will typically go and make like a triple batch. Or it's not that it doesn't come out great, it's the fact that I'll make a triple batch or so to make sure that I have enough, because I often do double layer cakes where you got your base, got to have a layer of icing in the middle and another cake, and then you got to ice the outside, and then till you decorate it, put some decorative like borders and stuff on it, I got to work with my icing. So there's our powdered sugar. Next, we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and I'm using a 1/2 teaspoon here, so I'm gonna have to measure that 4 times. Okay. 1, oop, a little bit of extra drip so I can go light on the last. 2, 3, 4. Okay. 4 halves equals 2. That in there. Okay. Next up are light corn syrup. Now, 1.5 tablespoons, so that means we gotta go 3 tablespoons. And this is a new bottle. Who would have thunk it? I don't have a open bottle on there. So let's go ahead and open this up, and provided it wants to behave, there it goes. This should pour fairly easily. We'll just use it this way. And again, 3, since I'm doubling. 1. Now, this is kind of different because I've never actually poured or put corn syrup in my icing before. But this is a different kind of icing. I'm used to making a plain buttercream or a cream cheese icing, or even like a grocery store or bakery type frosting or icing where they use shortening and stuff in it. And I know there's people that will make a certain kind of icing where it's like a pudding base, or sometimes they'll bake it, or not bake it, but they like cook the icing on the stove, which is really, really interesting as well. So, all right, there's our corn syrup, and we need milk here. So the trouble is, let's see, we're gonna have to double. So 2 to 3 tablespoons, so we're gonna go 6 tablespoons, but this calls for 1. So we need 2 tablespoons to start with for the double. 1, 2, and the rest is just to add in for desired consistency. Now I had a little bit of a splash there. All right, now I will find, I have a little bit of a splash guard for this. Let me find that. All right, let's go ahead and put this on here. Make sure I connect it correctly. Whoop, there's one side. There's the other. All right, so this isn't gonna be a perfect help, but for what I'm gonna do here, we're gonna take our time and try to keep it from splattered powdered sugar, because whenever you're working with powdered sugar, a lot of times it will poof everywhere if you're not careful. So we are going to try to avoid that by using this splash guard, doing a couple of turns on it first. Like we'll take and just bump it a little bit so that it starts to spin, starts to incorporate the ingredients together, and then we'll try it again. We'll try to give it a full burst here. So let's go, and a little bit at a time. Couple turns. It looks like it's doing okay. Oh, we'll let it go here on low. There we go, it's starting to pick it up there. Add a little milk at a time to reach the desired consistency. So, going by the recipe, we have about 4 tablespoons maximum that we could use by the recommended amount. But we may have to add a little more to that, and we'll see how it goes as we knead it here. It definitely looks like we're going to need a little more, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this my way, just in case. Whoop! Just wants to run down my milk jug. Now, right now, it's kind of a crumbly consistency. All right, let's add another. Whoop. Now it's starting to solidify a little more. Now it's kind of like a doughy consistency, so we're going to continue to add until it's thinned down. And we don't want this to be too thin. If it gets too thin, it's just going to run off of the cookie. But we want it to be a stiffened but decent consistency that we're not going to run into trouble with it. All right, we'll go one more. And it's looking perfect here. This looks like the perfect consistency for what I'm going to want it to be. So I'm going to get another rubber spatula. We're going to scrape this down, let it incorporate a little bit more, and then when it's all done, we'll show you what it looks like in the bowl. 1 second. Now, you guys can see in here, try to move this out of the way. As you can tell, it didn't make a whole lot of icing, but you can see the consistency of it there. It's very thick, but it's also very glossy. It's got like a very glossy shine to it. So when we add color, it should look very, very nice with what we're gonna do with the gingerbread. So let's go ahead and get started on making the color. But again, as you can see, it is a very kind of a small amount, so we will use what we have here. I'm going to mix it just a little bit more to make sure it's all fully incorporated, and if we can't make enough, then I'll just have to make another batch. But you guys saw what I did. I already doubled it. We'll see where this goes. So we got the wifey here now, and like I said, she's going to do the color for us. So we need roughly 10 colors total, the 10th being white, which white, I have what's left in the mixing bowl is white. We're not gonna need to do anything with that. That is fine where it's at. But then we need black, dark gray, light blue, yellow. Those are all for Doctor alone. Lappland's gonna need white, silvery gray, dark gray, and black. Texas is gonna need black, white, dark gray, blue gray, skin tone, and amber for the eyes. So we'll go ahead and get started and get those colors made. Wifey, I'm gonna go ahead and start with black first.
This one here, right?
Yep, go ahead and use that. And we have a specific black there, but you could probably make drops, just do drops right out of that one. But these colors you'll need to use the toothpicks or whatever for.
Yes.
And that one's probably going to take a good bit to get the consistency that we want.
Yes.
And then as we get them done, we'll show them off to the camera. And like I said, this is a very thick consistency icing. It's one of those things where it's probably going to be a little hard to mix up and take a little while, but we'll get it one step at a time. Okay, go ahead and clean that spoon off. And we have our black icing done first. Nice color consistency there. Looks really awesome. So black is done. So we've got our two complete opposite colors completed already. White and black, easy. Now, we'll go for the dark gray while we're at it. All right, so you're looking at not quite as dark as black, but you want a good solid dark gray like that. Close, just not quite, because that's going to be used for Doctor's like jacket and stuff to represent his black. For Lappland, it's going to be a little bit of like outlining and stuff for her. And then kind of similar for Texas, it's going to be for like her leggings and things. It's creamy. That looks good. Let's go ahead and show our dark gray.
Need a spoon in there for whenever we do the light gray.
And there is our dark gray. It's a little bit lighter than the black, so not too much difference.
So which one's going to be the light gray?
All right, so let me check off dark gray off the list. So light gray, we want the middle, like what Doctor has there. So it's gonna, and the thing is, that's gonna be a light gray, and then we've got a little bit lighter of a gray yet for Lappland for her hair and stuff. It's gotta be like a silvery gray. So you gotta kind of have just that very light wisp of gray to it. So this one's darker than her hair, essentially. That up.
Hi.
Oh, that looks good. That looks excellent. What do you think, Pookie? Look good? Okay. I think she's warming up to you because she was getting a little angry when I was mentioning you earlier. I think she's hungry. So there's our light gray, which is going to be used for like Doctor's inside of his cloak, or rather like his smock that's on the inside underneath his dark jacket. So that'll be that. This is why you're the color master. You're the one that I let do this stuff, because either my color blindness is not going to let me do it, or just in general, I'm going to screw something up. Only thing, guys, the only thing is when she gets that anal tendency to correct me, and like it makes me feel like crap because I wasn't trying to make things bad, like if I'm drawing and coloring something, you know, but you know, she's got to correct me out of the blue when I didn't ask for help.
Most of the time that happens after you've asked for a different color's help, but you forgot to ask about a previous one.
Which, whatever, it is what it is. But we've got our nice silvery gray, very, very light, much lighter gray that we'll use for Lappland's hair and Tilfoof. All right, so next for Doctor, we need a light blue. So if you want to go ahead and get a tiny amount, because we only need it for the strips on the shoulders of the jacket, the sleeves. Beautiful. That's going to go a little dark, but you know what? It's all right. I can add a little bit of white, or we could take some white out of like that one to add to it if you want.
Yeah, this turned out a little darker than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, probably should have just went a little bit lighter on the amount there. But you could take, like I said, take some white out of this one, because this is going to be our third smallest. And again, we need a tiny bit of yellow and then just a tiny bit for the amber. So let me scoop some of this out here if we can. Yep. Come on. Let it go. Okay. That's good enough. It's not going to get too much lighter unless we add a buttload of white, but you know what? It doesn't have to be.
Close enough.
Again, doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a little fun thing. Perfection, we'll leave that to the real bakers. And here we got what we'll use as our light blue for Doctor. His little pieces on his shoulder there. I love these gel colors. They're really nice to work with, but I would like a selection of ones like the black and larger bottles, just thin, light dyes, you know?
Yeah.
Really thin, liquidy, I should say, instead of gel. So, I mean, having both to work with, especially when it comes to icing like this and whatnot, is fun. So, icing like this, or I find that icing like this, the gel works better with than like our typical buttercream or the bakery style that I use. So that's a interesting thing. Okay, and we got yellow for the little, they're technically the Rhodes Island logos on Doctor's shoulders, but we're just doing the outline of that because it's so tiny, I can't really put the lettering on. All right, so if you want to do the next tiniest one, which would be that one that we took out of, do the amber, which is just going to be Texas's eye color. Now, it's a lighter amber looking at some of the artwork, but whatever color it comes out is fine. It doesn't have to be super crazy, just not crazy dark either. And you saw when I was doodling this that I didn't get the perfect color anyways for that, so.
That's fair.
I'm pretty sure that's her eye color. Like, I can even bring up a picture. It's just a lot of times when I've read stuff about her, that's what I get. Here, let me look it up just to be sure before you start.
I can see it.
Yeah, that's pretty good there. Okay. All right. And now we have what we're going to use for Texas's eye color. So it's a little hard to see because it doesn't want to focus, but that's all right. So we'll use that for her eye color. We only need 2 more colors yet. Okay. Next up, let's go with skin tone. We just need a skin tone. You can make a plain skin tone, and that's pretty much just for her because Lappland's getting the pale white for her skin. Doctor's skin doesn't show, so.
Okay, what's the last one?
The other one is going to be the bluish gray for her hair. So she went a little bit less because basically you got her face and a teeny bit on the tips of her hands. Alrighty, skin tone it is, and I ran into the tire again. There we go. So we have our skin tone for Texas, and last but not least, we need the bluish gray for her hair.
Darker.
Yeah, and it's just got like the bluish tones and stuff in it, and that's kind of dependent on the picture that you see of her. A lot of times it's just dark, it's black and stuff, but you get that little bit of tonage to it that makes it look better. I think it's just like kind of another case of like that anime style artwork where the hair color, it's intended to be one thing, but when you look at it, the highlight and stuff makes it look a different color and whatnot. So, you know, plus, I mean, you look at some of the figures and stuff and the merch and stuff that I have, and you get that look to it and everything, so. Okay. All right. So, last but not least, we have our kind of bluish gray, dark blue that we'll use for Texas's hair to make that really pop. So, and again, you know, I do understand that in a lot of artwork and things that it's intended to look like a darker, like a black or a gray or something, a real dark color, but you know, you get those overtones that give it the bluish tint and whatnot, and you see that in a lot of the artwork and things too, like the merchandise stuff. So we're gonna go with this for our color, and we'll take it from there. So with that, we have all of our colors mixed up the way that we want to. We have black, we have our dark gray, light gray, silvery gray, blue, skin tone, yellow, amber, the blue-gray, and our plain white. And we are officially ready to start our decorating process. So we'll get the cookies decorated next. Thank you, wifey, for mixing the colors up. Very helpful, much appreciated. And now you have icing all over your chin. Probably from when you licked the beater. But you got spots on your chin. You probably had them on the whole time you've been mixing.
Probably.
That's all right. All right, let's get the cookies back over here and we'll get started on decorating. All right, guys, so now that we have the icing mixed up, we have all the colors that we need, it's time to finish the product by icing our cookies. So we're gonna start with Doctor, because he's kind of the most simple to some extent, as opposed to the others. There's not as much detail in Doctor. So we're gonna go ahead and get him started, and then once he's done, we'll move on to the others. But like I said, we're gonna start by picking the best ones of the bunch. And I've got the cookies back over here, and I think I see the best of each. So we're gonna pick one of each, we're gonna decorate them. Let's get started. All right, so I've got my little turntable here, or Lazy Susan, whatever you want to call it, and I've got my icings. And what I'm gonna do first and foremost is I always like to do a little trick here with a cup in order to fill up my icing bags. So I need to get a decorative tip that I want to use first, and I've got a large selection of them here. And then I have my piping bags, various items and tools here that we can use to decorate these. And I've even got these little fancy like pencil, they've got a very thin tip type tools that we can use as well in the process. But let me go ahead and gather what I need here. So let's start. We'll take a piping bag here, a fresh one. Had to buy some brand new ones here recently because of the fact that my old ones started to wear out. I've been using them for a few years decorating cakes and things, so it's worked out nicely. But all right, we've got one of those loaded in, and now the first color we're using is the dark gray. So that doesn't require a whole lot. Actually, you know what? We're gonna go with the light gray first. The light gray for Doctor's inner smock, because then we can cover the dark gray on the outside and underneath, and then we'll finish off with the black. And then we've got little details with the light blue and the yellow. So with the light gray, we don't need a small, tiny tip. So we just need one that has a decent size to it here. Let's see, this larger one might work really, really nicely. And these are reusable bags, which is also very nice. So once I'm done with it, I can empty this out and move onward. So what I like to do is I'll take the end and kind of fold it a little bit, and then I take the top part and I'll put it over the edge of the cup just to keep it kind of open there. And now we'll go ahead and scoop our icing out here. Let me grab my list. Since I had my phone, I have my laptop with my little doodle on it, and I have my list with all my icing colors that I need. So we'll go ahead and do this. Okay. And this light gray is only being used for Doctor. So grab a spoon. Okay. Now we just need to lift it up, squeeze it down. And what I'll do is I like to roll the top of the bag down a couple times. If it's not completely full like this, there's not a whole lot in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze it down here. And I've also got little icing spreaders as well here at the ready for me. All right, So we'll set that cup aside, we'll set this bowl aside as well. Let's pull Doctor over here. And let's start with putting on his smock. Let's see how easy or hard this icing will spread. And let's just spread it around a little bit here. Give ourselves a nice, even base to work with. And again, we're adding black and other things on top, so we're going to be kind of layering it a little bit. Layering it, outlining it, and so on and so forth. Now again, this is a stiffer icing, so it is kind of difficult to work with, but what's nice is when you let it sit and let it settle, it starts to retain that glossy shine again after it just kind of settles and smooths itself out a little bit. So, we've got the first color on, guys. Doctor is well on his way to being clothed once more. All right. Next up, we have our dark gray. So let's start by easing on Doctor's pants here. Kind of hold him down, give him some pants. And we're kind of using the dark gray in lieu of black because we need some black for some other details and outlining and things. So this gives it that look that kind of retains that coloring and so on and so forth. Okay. Now we got to go over top of this. Now, pardon my shaking. You guys know how I shake, so it's something we just kind of gotta have to deal with. Okay, there's that. All right, and last but not least, let's get his head covered. Now this, I might be able to spread a little bit. And I might have to anyways, but it's coming out very nicely here too. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So let's get our little spreader again. And kind of hold Doctor in place here. Sorry, Doc, I'm gonna hold you down just like I do, or rather, just like some of the operators do when they're trying to do their thing, you know? We've seen the memes. And Doctor is coming out very, very good. So now, for Doctor, we just need the black, the light blue, and the yellow. So I need to get, I have a small tip here for the black, which is perfect. And then I just need to get the yellow and blue, which will probably have to do with either a little tiny tip of something or whatever, but we'll get those here soon enough. Now, let's get the black added on to Doctor. For this, I'm using a very small tip, just to try and help control it a little bit more, even though Like I said, I'm pretty shaky. Try to take my time and do as best as I can. Poof. Okay. The thing with the black is a lot of it is outlining, but with Doctor, he gets some details. Okay. Almost done with the black. Okay, and last but not least, I don't have the thinner tip, so we're just gonna have to be careful. All right. So now, all we need to do to finish our Doctor up is his little yellow and blue details. Boom, and boom. And last but not least, we need to do the yellow, which I'm going to very carefully attempt to apply using a toothpick. Okay, let's get a little bit more. Roll it using my fingertip. See if I can twist it a little bit and break it off. There we go. Now, try the same thing over here. There's one bit. We may be able to add a little more to that side, but let's go ahead, make ourselves a little line. Poof. Okay. Okay. I think we're good enough. And with that, our first one is complete. Next up, we have Texas that we're going to work on. So we're going to start things off for her. We're going to start things off with our white. There isn't a ton of detail, but we need the white because then there's things that are going to overlap. So let me go ahead and get our white icing bowl all set up and ready to go. And that will be our first here. Okay. Let's pull this closer. And the first thing to get a little bit of white here is going to be some fluff for the ears. Just her little fluff spot there. on the inside of her ear for both sides. Okay. And now we need her shirt. And then from there, come down just a little bit for the line for her shorts. Okay. All right. And that should be it for the white for her. Makes that much easy. Now, let's go ahead and move on. We'll do our skin tone next. We'll do our skin tone, and then we'll do our gray leggings, and then we'll do the black, and then we'll finish things off with the hair, and then her facial details. All right. Let's go ahead and put on some skin tone here for our dear Texas. There's that. We need just a little bit for the tips of her hands. Whoop. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Wonderful. Next up, we shall need our hair color. Now with this, I am working with a much smaller, I'm working with a small tip for it. So, with any luck, that'll make this very easy to apply. It'll work very well for the tail. Tail, we don't have to worry too much about the detail, but it's the actual hair. And ears. All right. Now we're set up here. We're gonna go ahead and do some of our detail work with the black. Try to use my pencil tool here. Gotta get her little gloves on here. we go. Shorts added. All right, and last but not least, we just need to add her eyes, which we are also going to do with a toothpick. And with that, she is completed. All right, and last but not least, now we're gonna work on Pookie herself. So, we're starting off with a base of white for her, basically around the legs, a little bit of belly area, her head, and her hands, because she's got that pasty white skin tone to her, so we're not doing a skin tone like we did for Texas, and well, we didn't see anything like that for Doctor, so we're just gonna go ahead and pipe some white on here. Start off with that. We'll just do white all through here just to cover the belly region when we get there. Tips of her hands. Okay. Do it same as Texas, where we're just kind of fill it in a little bit more and then cover to make the definition with the hair. Next up, we'll go with our black. Then following this, we'll do our dark gray for a little bit of an outline, and then our silvery gray for the hair, the eyes, and the tail, and a couple little details we're going to use it for. So now we have the majority of the black on. We just need to do a little bit of outlining with the dark gray when that's time, and we need to get her hair color and stuff on. All right, so next up, we're gonna take a minute and just outline the jacket a little bit, her little overcoat here, and give it the outlining that'll let us be able to kind of see where the flaps and stuff are supposed to be. So, try to be careful with this. Make sure I squeeze my icing down a little more. Now, we just need to put on her hair, her eyes, a little detail on the front of the jacket, and then her little black marks that go over her hair, the little clip or whatever that is that goes over the side of her hair. We need to put that on, her scar, and a little smile for her. We are nearing completion. All right. And last but not least, our Lappland is complete. All right, guys, so you guys just got to see the completed product there. That was fun. It was a fun little experiment and fun to make and decorate these 3 cookies. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you had fun with me while I experimented with something new. And it wasn't extremely difficult. The most difficult thing was obviously decorating in the end. Decorating, getting as much detail as we could in these small little cookies. It may be fun to remake the cookie cutters someday and make them much larger, make larger gingerbread characters. But I think next time, we'll go forward with doing some additional characters as well if we do this again. Now, probably out of all 3 of them, the one that I'm a little more disappointed in, not so much that I'm disappointed, but rather just had a little bit more issue with, was Texas. Texas seemed to have the most detail out of all of them. Doctor was my first one, and kind of the initial experiment and getting my hands working with doing the decorating. Lappland wasn't extremely hard, but to get the details and things the way we like, it was difficult. Now, again though, the thing is, as I've mentioned, I'm not a professional baker. I do this for fun. I bake every holiday, and I bake birthday cakes and things. That's kind of what I do, but this was new for me because I've never baked gingerbread, and to ice it, that was new for me as well. So it is what it is. What do you think, Pookie? Do you think we did good? Yeah, you think so? She thinks we did good. That's all that matters. But there's just one more step left. Now you guys got to see what they look like, but my big question is, how do they taste? Let's go ahead and taste one, and we'll find out just how good they are. And we got to ruin the work at some point, right? So, who do we eat? Who do we take a bite out of? Do we eat you? No, you don't want eaten. What about Doctor? Not sure. How about Texas? All right. She has spoken. We take a bite out of Texas. Ready? Let's find out. We're going to go with her foot. We'll take a little nibble off the foot. If I can get it off the rack. It's a little difficult with one hand, you know. Okay. Here we go. One bite. Good. I think it's pretty good. Whoop. About to lose my paper towel there. Good gingerbread flavor. Tastes really good. The spices and everything are coming through. I really like it. And the icing. Icing's a little on the sweet side, but it kind of counterbalances in a really good way. So I'm proud of my work as far as the taste goes as well. We've got the perfect sweet and spice combination that gives the cookie and the icing a good balance together. And I think it came out really, really well. Again, this was a ton of fun to do and a lot of fun as an Arknights nerd and somebody who loves to have fun in the kitchen. So, with that being said, guys, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to let me know that you want more of this kind of content in the future. We'll go ahead and bring you some more fun in the kitchen, Arknights related. I'd like to maybe do some more food and drink related things from the game. What do you think? Yeah? And, well, who knows what the future might bring in terms of other recipes and ideas that get spawned from you guys giving me ideas, but also from the game itself. I'm thinking about a certain Millefeuille. Yeah, that might be in the future. I've got to learn how to make that, and that looks a little bit difficult. So we'll go ahead and put that on the board for a future idea. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what your favorite kind of cookie is down in the comments. If you like gingerbread, if you like chocolate chip, whatever your favorite kind of cookie is, let me know in the comments. And if you like this, let me know what you think I should do as far as another character or something in the future. Again, we may do some more if we do this again, maybe for next year's holiday baking. With that, that's it for this one, guys, and I will see you next time.